welcome to 8th grade science. The purpose of this video is to go over the safety procedures that you're going to follow this year in science class. The most important part of any science class is that you are safe in the science lab. We'll be working with quite a bit of chemicals and even some open flames, lots of glassware this year, and not following safety procedures can lead to accidents and injuries in the science lab. So the first procedure is a simple one. Simply following the directions that I give you, both written and verbal, will prevent most accidents and injuries from happening. If you're following the instructions, you're following the safety procedures, you're highly unlikely to end up hurt or having an accident. But there are some other things to think about just in case. The first one is that make sure that you're not touching or messing with the equipment while it's back here before I have a chance to give you some safety instructions. It'll be back here, ready for you to use. We're going to use it, I promise. Just want you to wait until you're getting the instructions for that. The other thing is make sure that you're not kind of going out on your own and experimenting. I often hear things like, I wonder what would happen if we mixed this and this. And you can ask and we can talk about it a little bit, but I'd prefer you not experimenting or trying things out on your own, because oftentimes that's what leads to an accident or injury. Another thing that I'm very careful about here in Science Lab is their Science Lab dress code. This is a little bit different than just the general school dress code, because in this case we're making sure that we don't have anything that's going to get in the way of what we're doing in the lab and lead to unintended exposure to what's around us in the lab. So the first thing, and if you have long hair, you're going to want to tie that back. So usually I say if you lean forward and your hair can fall forward, you're going to want to tie that back. So it's a good idea to keep extra hair ties on you. The next thing is anything that's sort of bulky or dangly you want to get out of the picture. So sleeves, long sleeves should be pushed up. If you have hoodie strings, necklaces, scarves, all of those should be taken off and stowed away for the lab. Additionally, if you're wearing extra bulky clothes like a jacket or a sweatshirt, it's actually ideal for you to just go ahead and take that off if you can do that, if you have, say, a t-shirt or something underneath. If not, the sleeves up and hoodie strings tucked in works just fine. Finally, open-toed shoes are not allowed in lab. There's usually only an issue in the fall and the spring. Just make sure you're not wearing flip-flops on lab days. That way if something does fall and break, it's not falling on your toes. Part of the dress code for lab, and this is going to be important, especially in the beginning of the year when we're doing a lot of our chemistry labs, a lot of the ones that have chemicals that might splash or spill in your eyes, are to wear goggles. I know they're not particularly attractive and they're not very comfortable, but they will prevent your eyes from being exposed to chemicals that might spill in there, which is much better than worrying about how good we look and how comfortable we are. So anytime we have a chemistry lab, and I'll tell you ahead of time if goggles are required, you are required to wear the goggles the entire time you're in the lab, so it's not appropriate to put your goggles up like this and then put them back down. If you're in the lab, the goggles need to be on at all times. The next part is a little bit about lab behavior and lab maintenance. That it gets a little crowded back here, so keeping your area neat and clean is really important. There's really no need to have anything except for your notebook and pencil back here. You're going to want to keep all food and drink out of the lab, absolutely. Here I have my water bottle, which is fine to have in class, but not okay to have in lab. I'm going to put that out of there. You don't want to be eating and touching things with your hands and then working in the lab, so make sure we keep food and drink out of the lab. Make sure that you leave all your binders and everything back at your desk. No reason to have that in there. And then if anything does happen, just make sure you clean up any spills. Also, you want to make sure that you're maintaining pretty good behavior back at the lab. It gets really crowded again. You might have 2 lab partners and then another lab group behind you. That can lead, it can be pretty crowded, and if you're goofing around, screwing around, a lot of people, you might bump into something or knock something over or push someone into, say, something like an open flame, and we wouldn't want that. The other thing is a lot of people want to grab one of the stools and sit down during lab. That's not appropriate either. It just gets too crowded and reduces the movement and ability to move in and out safely. Finally, accidents do happen sometimes. Sometimes you know, sometime throughout this year, something's going to get broken, something's going to get spilled. And as much as I would like to avoid that, it is highly unlikely that we can go through a whole school year without some little accident. The most important thing is when that happens is that you report it immediately. If you drop a test tube and it breaks, okay, we'll deal with that, but I don't want you to try to hide it just to avoid getting in trouble. Please tell me, see me, so I can help clean it up so that we're not leading anybody to further injury or accidents happening. There are additional safety procedures in the event of emergencies, such as fire drills or things getting in your eyes, in a separate lab safety video, so you'll want to watch that as well. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the class.